Hey, Anya, here we are. Happy Thanksgiving to you. We have another production from Lovebug Productions. And here's Grandma with a little story about Jack and the Beanstalk. Okay, Grandma?
Hi, Anya. Good morning. It's Thanksgiving, and we're going to have some people over later today. But we have the table set, and we're so ready to have a nice turkey dinner with pumpkin pie and all the trimmings. So before we do that, Grandpa and I wanted to read you a story. And this one is called Jack and the Beanstalk. In the days of King Alfred, in a village far from London, there lived a poor widow and her son Jack. He was a good boy at heart, but careless and so extravagant that he spent everything his mother had. "You wasteful boy," she scolded him one day. "I haven't enough money to buy even a loaf of bread. Our cow is all that we have left, and we must sell her if we are not to starve." She burst into tears, and for a few minutes Jack was very sad. He begged his mother to let him drive the cow to the next village, and of course driving means to walk it down the road, where he promised to sell it for a good sum of money. Finally she consented, and he started out. But as he was going along the road, he met a butcher who was carrying some strange-looking beans in his hat. They were very different colors, blue and green and red, and Jack looked at them longingly. The butcher looked at the cow and said, if Jack would like to trade the cow for these beans. "Why, of course," said Jack, delighted at the bargain he had made. He handed the cow's halter to the butcher, put the bright-colored beans in his pocket, and ran home to tell his mother. "Oh, you foolish, foolish boy," she cried angrily, throwing the beans out the window. "Whatever will become of us now? We don't have a cow, and look what you bought with the cow." Both Jack and his mother went supperless to bed. Supper's like dinner, because there was nothing to eat in the whole entire house. Then they should come here for Thanksgiving. Really, we got lots of food. Next morning, when he awoke, Jack sat up and rubbed his eyes in surprise. There was something green growing outside his window. When he ran down to the garden, he found that the beans had taken root during the night and sprang up a surprising height. The thick stalks formed a sort of ladder that went up and up until the top seemed almost among the clouds. "Mother, come and look," cried Jack. "See my wonderful beanstalk. I'm going to climb to the top." "Oh, Jack, please don't go," said the poor widow. But Jack would have nothing but his own way. He began to climb. He climbed and climbed for several hours. At last he reached the top. Here he found himself in a strange country, and he seemed to be all alone. There were no trees and no houses in sight. Not a living creature could be seen, and Jack sat down on a stone, feeling very lonely and frightened. He remembered what a wicked boy he had been to cause his mother so much worry, and he wondered if he would ever see her again. "Why, Jack, what are you doing here?" Jack looked up with a start. A beautiful lady with a white wand was standing beside him. Being a very polite boy, Jack jumped to his feet and tipped his hat. Then he told her about his exciting climb up the beanstalk. "Do you remember your father?" the lady asked. "No, and my mother will tell me nothing," said Jack. "She dares not tell you," said the lady, "but I can, and I will, because I am a fairy, and I was your father's guardian. I have been away for some time on the other side of the world, and when I came back just yesterday, I learned that your father had been killed several years ago by a wicked giant. I was very sad, for I had been here, I could have helped him." She looked so sorrowful that Jack's heart warmed to her. He begged her to tell me more. "Your father was a good man and very rich," the fairy lady went on, "but a wicked giant stole all his property. Then he made your mother promise never to tell what had happened. When I found out what had happened, I knew I must find a way to help you. It was I who put the idea in your head yesterday to trade your cow for that handful of beans. It was I who made the beanstalk grow so tall into the clouds, and it was I that made you want to climb into this strange country where the giant lives. I'm going to help you punish him." Jack was frightened by the idea of punishing a giant, but he was a very brave boy, and he asked where the giant lived. "Just follow the road, and you will soon come to his house," said the fairy. "When you get there, remember that everything he has stolen from your father, and it is rightfully yours. If you get into trouble, I'll help you." The fairy smiled and vanished. All this happened so quickly that Jack wondered if he might have been dreaming, but he was determined to find out and walked on down the road. About sunset, he came to a big mansion. The plain-looking woman stood by the door, and Jack asked for a crust of bread and a night's lodging. "Oh, I would not dare let you in," said the woman. "My husband is a giant, and he likes to eat boys."
Whoa.
He was gone off now in search of some, but he will be back any minute. Jack trembled all over when he heard this, but he made up his mind to be very brave. He begged the giant's wife to take him in and to hide him when the giant came. She was very kind-hearted, so at last she agreed and led the way into the big kitchen. Jack sat down at the table and was enjoying a good supper when there came a loud knocking at the door. The giant's wife grew pale. "Oh, that's my husband now," she whispered. "What shall I do? If he finds you here, he will kill us both." "Hide me in the oven, quick," said Jack. Fortunately, there was no fire in the stove, and Jack crept into the oven just as the giant's wife ran to the kitchen door. "Ah, I smell fresh meat," roared the giant. "This is only the sheep you killed this morning," said his wife. "I'll have your supper ready soon." Peeking through the crack in the oven, Jack was amazed to see how much food the giant ate. But at last he was finished and cried out in a voice like thunder, "Wife, bring me my hen!" She brought him a beautiful live hen and placed it on the table. Cluck, cluck. "Lay," he commanded, and the hen laid an egg of solid gold. "Lay again," roared the giant, and the hen laid an egg even larger than before. The giant sent his wife to bed and then sat for a long time amusing himself with the hen. Jack watched through the crack, remembered what the fairy had said, and then all the giant's riches had been stolen from Jack's father. At last the giant went to sleep at the table and snored loudly. Then Jack crept out of the oven, seized the hen, and ran out of the house. He ran down the road to the top of the beanstalk and climbed down into safety. His mother was overjoyed to see him. "Oh, Jack, something has happened to you," she cried. "Not a bit, Mother. Look here," he said as he showed her the hen. "Lay," he commanded, and the hen obeyed him as readily as it had the giant. It laid as many golden eggs as Jack desired. When the eggs were sold, Jack and his mother had plenty of money, and they lived happily for the next few months. But Jack remembered what the fairy had said about punishing the giant, and he decided that he must climb up that beanstalk again. "Please, Jack, stay here with me," said the mother. "The giant's wife is sure to remember you, and the giant would kill you." Jack did not answer, but his mind was made up. The next morning he was up before dawn, and he disguised himself as a sailor and stained his skin brown with walnut juice. Then he climbed up the beanstalk and walked along the road to the giant's house. It was evening by the time he arrived, and the giant's wife was standing by the door. Jack went up to her as before and asked for a crust of bread and a night's lodging. "You know, Anya, I'm going to come back in a couple minutes, so we'll see you in a few minutes."